Hi there, I'm Ethan. Thank you for watching this video. In this time, I will be breaking down an at-bat between Mike Clevenger and Mookie Betts from 2019. In this series, I will be attempting to break down a specific at-bat or series of at-bats in the hopes of learning more about pitch sequencing. Alright, so there's a title slide. Before we get started, I just want to point out that I've been inspired to do this by this excellent Trevor Bauer video series called Breaking Point, where he breaks down the at-bat from the view of himself, the pitcher, and also from this show on John Boy's YouTube channel hosted by former Major Leaguer Trevor Plouffe called Sequence, which breaks down at-bats from the hitter's point of view. So this is a skill that I have been wanting to acquire for some time now, and I am taking this time to go ahead and do it. So we will just dive right in. I will be starting each of these videos with what I hope to be, or what I hope is a pretty in-depth breakdown of both the pitcher, in this case Mike Clevenger, and the hitter, in this case Mookie Betts, with available public data. And then in the second half of videos like this, I will be breaking down the actual at-bat pitch by pitch, explaining what I think I would call in that case, and then comparing and seeing if that actually happens. So, all right, let's get into it. Thanks again for watching, and here we go. So, as we know, Mike Clevenger was a very good pitcher in 2019. What I'm interested in looking at is what made him so good, and specifically what pitch types he's likely to throw to a hitter like Mookie Betts if he's trying to get him out. So, starting off, it's important to figure out what pitch types Mike Clevenger throws. So this is his pitch distribution in 2019. Mostly fastball, 50% fastball, 25% slider. Mixes in a curveball and a changeup, 4 distinct pitches. I wanted to dig a little bit deeper here and see what he throws against right-handed batters, more specifically, since Mookie Betts is a righty. I went ahead and did that using this line of code here. Again, publicly available data. And we find that against righties in 2019, Clevenger threw a four-seam fastball about 42% of the time, slider about 52% of the time. Only about 5% of his pitches were not a fastball or a slider. So for most of this video, I'm just going to be talking about Clevenger as kind of a two-pitch guy, fastball, slider, about 50-50 against righties, because that's how he tended to throw his pitches in 2019. That makes it a little bit easier for me to do this. I'm not diving right into pitchers like Garrett Cole or Jacob deGrom or Zach Greinke, who have 4+ pitches. I'm not ready for that yet. So so this should be a good starting point for me. So here we go. Looking at where Mike Clevenger throws his fastball and his slider in the zone, and where he has success, where he has failure. So in 2019 against right-handed batters, looking at four-seam fastballs, his whiff rate seemed to be the highest at the top of the zone, high and away. This makes sense. This is where pitchers with a high spin rate, like Mike Clevenger seems to have a fairly high spin rate. This is where pitchers in 2019 are getting whiffs with their fastballs. So obviously we know that that is what's happening in the league, but it's good to make sure that that's also happening for Mike Clevenger specifically. And then with his slider, real quick, that was whiff rate. Let's also look at batting average. Mike Clevenger's fastball seems to get hit when it's on the inner half, not hit very well when it's on the outer half in the zone. So that's something that we will be looking at later on. Keep that in the back of your mind. In 2019 against righties with the slider, Mike Clevenger has great success with that pitch, down and away. That over here, you can compare that with the league whiff rate. That makes a lot of sense. That's where pitchers seem to get whiffs with sliders in general, low and away to righties. When it comes to batting average, this is not updating. Here we go. This slider, it is going to get hit very hard if that slider hangs. If it doesn't hang, pretty much unhittable. If it does, that's going to be a hit. Real quick, I should have done this already, but I'm going to pull up my Shiny app where I visualized my expected run value predictions for pitchers in 2019 using the same 2019 data that I am dealing with here in R. This would be great if it came up quickly. What I'm going to attempt to show here is just where Clevenger had the most success or the most predicted success with his fastball and with his slider in 2019. So let's pull him on up right here. This is not an advertisement, but it kind of is. Okay, so according to my model, Mike Clevenger's four-seam fastball was better than 91% of pitchers' four-seam fastballs in 2019. It really had success everywhere in the zone. This is pitcher's perspective, by the way, whereas these charts were catcher's perspective, these two. So this is as if you're Clevenger looking at the zone. So yeah, it's a quality pitch. He can kind of expect to get good outcomes anywhere in the zone. And then with the slider, better than 83% of pitcher sliders, so maybe not elite, but still very good. And he's going to be throwing it down here, low and away to a right-handed batter. This makes a lot of sense. This is corroborated by this graph right here. Whiffs are good outcomes, and this is showing outcomes on whiffs and balls in play. So this makes sense. And also these big blue positive run value, expected run values for sliders in the middle makes sense because that is also what we saw here on the batting average chart. We can up the sample size a little bit, and we're still seeing that those pitches get banged. So that is Mike Clevenger. If we're Mike Clevenger against a righty, we're probably going to be throwing fastballs up in the zone, right like this. Fastballs up in the zone, maybe away on the outer corner, and sliders low and away. So Mookie Betts, let's look at his hitting profile. So we're going to be looking at 2019 at-bats against right-handed pitchers. Let's start off with whiff rate. Mookie Betts does not whiff on fastballs, or he did not in 2019. All these rates are incredibly low compared to the league average. If he's going to whiff, it might be up, maybe up and in, but let's make sure that that is a high sample, and it is a pretty high sample. So that might be a pitch that Clevenger is going to, or might want to think about going to. And then with batting average, Mookie Betts hits fastballs that are in the middle of the zone. It seems like he had a little bit of trouble with pitches that were like right down the zone, like kind of chest high. But generally, Mookie Betts does do really well on this outside fastball as well. So if you're Mookie Betts, you're looking for a fastball, you might be a little bit worried about this this up and in fastball. But that's about it. So let's take a look. I wanted to show how Mookie does on fastballs, just kind of right down the middle, this normal. That's maybe where he would be hunting a fastball in this at-bat. His WOBA is 493, which is very good. If we look at fastballs kind of up and in, his WOBA is 375, which is still pretty good. If we look at the away region here, WOBA 433, very good. So Mookie Betts is clearly a good fastball hitter. If you're Mike Clevenger, you might want to be planning on not throwing a ton of fastballs or just executing them very well. So when it comes to the slider, Mookie Betts is definitely susceptible low and outside. That's, again, where Clevenger seems to throw his slider and where a lot of pitchers throw their sliders. So this could be a problem spot for Mookie here. When we look at his batting average, though, Mookie seems to hit that slider that is hanging. He's not really hitting the slider that's well executed, which not many people are, but he will also hit. He's going to hit that hanging slider. So if you're Mike Clevenger, this is a tough AB or a tough series of ABs because Mookie Betts is a really good hitter. So if we look at how Mookie does on sliders that are hanging, 374 WOBA, pretty good. When we're looking at pitches down here, these sliders down to 267. If we expand a little bit more and just look at these pitches that are like way off, we see his WOBA is 251. So I would be cognizant of trying to get Mookie Betts out with this pitch. Maybe if I'm crafting a scouting report, I would think maybe we are going to throw him fastballs early in the count, kind of up, draw his attention to this inside part of the plate, hope he doesn't hit one, and then later in the at-bat go to this kind of wipeout slider if we can. If we can get a swing or just try to actually put it in the zone here, good luck with that. So that concludes the scouting report part of this. Let's dive in. So this game that we're looking at is we are looking at the 13th of August here of 2019. No spoilers. I hope you didn't want to, I hope you didn't want to not see what happened because I accidentally just showed you. But here we go. Here's the first pitch of the game. I'm going to go ahead and turn the volume off here. So, first pitch of the entire game. If it's me, what am I throwing? I'm throwing a fastball. I'm probably going to throw this fastball up. I doubt Mookie's going to be swinging. Maybe up. Maybe we just kind of start down low. But I'm just going to try to throw a first pitch fastball for a strike. All right, so they went up 95 miles an hour. Nice hard first pitch. They aimed up. Let's make sure that Clevenger was aiming there. Well, it's kind of hard to tell with Roberto Perez back there not giving a spot for Clevenger to be throwing at. Either this was a bad miss or he was just trying to go up. But either way, first pitch fastball. So now it's 1-0. If it's me, I'm probably just going to try to throw another fastball, not get into the slider too early. Fastball for a strike. Again, we know that this is potentially a problem zone for Mookie Betts, so maybe just try to that last pitch. All right, so we see that what happened in actuality is not what I was expecting. So that was a slider, a high slider, which does not always work, and maybe a good frame job there by Perez to get that call. But we did see from the priors that we computed earlier that against righties, Clevenger throws more sliders than he does fastballs. So I guess in hindsight, this is not surprising that Clevenger wants to get that slider working early. This pitch is not very confusing. It's not what I was expecting, but it makes sense. So here we see Betts is a good hitter and was a good hitter at the time of this at bat. 1-1, kind of a toss-up here. Is it going to be fastball? Is it going to be slider? You can see he's wanting to get ahead. If it's me, probably fastball away. And it was a fastball away, so it looks like Clevenger's having trouble commanding that fastball. So far we've seen 2 fastballs, neither have been commanded very well, and 1 slider, which was on the corner or edge of the zone, whether he meant it to be there or not. So this is this pitch. It's 2-1. Here, are we going to see another fastball, or are we going to see a slider? I would think slider here because he just commanded one pretty well. So yeah, that's my pick. Slider out here. Maybe get a swing since Betts hasn't swung yet. Maybe he's getting antsy. I doubt it. Betts is a really good hitter. I doubt it. Here we go. I'm going to say slider out here. Okay, so we saw a fastball. This makes sense, I guess. He's trying to get his fastball working. There he... even if he was aiming a little bit low and away, low and in, that's okay. Still a really good pitch. So here we're finally at 2-2. So if I'm Clevenger, I am probably going to be trying to throw this kind of wipeout slider that we talked about. That is potentially the one way that we're going to get Mookie Betts out. So if I'm Betts, I'm probably getting ready for that, maybe cheating towards it. But I guess on 2 strikes, you're just covering the plate anyway. But if I'm Betts, maybe be a little more cognizant that a pitch that looks like it's going to be out here and then dives away, maybe you don't want to swing at that and recognize that it's a slider early. Let's see what happens here. All right, so if you were paying attention earlier during the scouting report section, you know and are probably pretty satisfied with the fact that Mike Clevenger has a propensity to hang sliders, and Mookie Betts has a propensity to hit hanging sliders. So as you know, as I predicted, they were trying to go for this this slider out here on the low and outside part of the plate, try to get that whiff, that strikeout, and instead it was really just hit, put right in the middle of the plate. Clevenger knows it immediately. Mookie Betts is gonna punish you for that every time. So let's move on to the second at bat of the game, the top of the second. What did we learn from the first at bat, though? We learned that Clevenger throws about as many sliders to righties as he does fastballs, which is interesting and a little bit different. We learned that Clevenger, at least in the first at bat, was having trouble commanding his fastball and honestly his slider as well. So we might not be getting any pinpoint control that would help us here if we're Clevenger. So here we go. So in this scenario, Boston already has a run. Betts is 1 for 1, hit the hanging slider. There are 2 outs, runners on first and second. So right here, we're just trying to get an out. It doesn't have to be a strikeout. Obviously, not looking for a walk with the top of the order up here. So Clevenger is going to be looking for an out. 34 pitches through an inning and 2/3. I would not be surprised if he's trying to get a ground out here versus trying to blow Betts away with, having a potentially long at bat going for the strikeout. We know that it's going to be either a fastball or a slider. So if you're Clevenger and you're trying to get a ground ball, I should probably have looked at the data for how Clevenger gets his ground balls, but I'm assuming that he's getting them on low fastballs or on kind of sliders in the zone-ish, not this wipeout slider, but more a slider in the zone. Hopefully get a rollover. Just probably working this outside half though. So we've talked about the scenario. Betts is up again. If it's me, I'm probably going to call a fastball kind of low and outside. That's my call. All right, so we get that fastball. It is on the outer half. We don't really know where it was supposed to be because, again, Roberto Perez, as a catcher, doesn't seem to be putting up a location very much. Let's look at Clevenger's reaction here and see what he thinks about this pitch. So he looks a little bit frustrated with that pitch. I don't know if that's because he wanted it lower or because he thought, I really don't know. I mean, this is a really good pitch. So I don't know why he's frustrated there, but it's kind of interesting. So if we move on, it's 0-1. We have Mookie Betts 0-1. Same scenario. I'd probably be going slider here if I'm Clevenger, just because we don't want to throw too many fastballs to Betts. This is, again, kind of our money zone for it's kind of our money zone for trying to get ground balls is low in the zone. So another low fastball, Betts might be looking for it since his attention was just drawn to that pitch out here. So if I'm calling a pitch, I'm probably going to try to go slider, maybe a baseball below the zone. So he chooses again to go with a low fastball, and he just appears to beat Mookie Betts to the spot, which is very interesting. Betts typically hits fastballs right here very well, coming off of a fastball in the same area, but it looks like Clevenger just says, hit it if you can, and Betts cannot. I'm actually going to slow this down really quickly and see if Betts appears to be late or if his barrel just misses, and it's kind of hard to tell. This is when I wish we had some Edgartronic footage or something like that, but here it looks like Betts is fairly on time and just seems to have swung a little bit under it. That might be a result of Clevenger having that fairly high spin rate where the ball kind of seems to hop a little bit and is in a higher location than the hitter expects. Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe Clevenger just threw a really good pitch and Betts just missed it. So either way, here we are at 0-2. Here we get a nice close-up of Clevenger's face. On 0-2, the scouting report said low and outside slider. I've been kind of saying that for a while now. Maybe if he could execute this up and in fastball, that would be good since Betts' attention is already to this kind of outer third, and he knows that he might be susceptible to that slider. So I could see them throwing this slider, try to get the out right here. I could see them trying to go with this high fastball, trying to set up a slider on the next pitch. All right, I don't know what was going on here. It was clearly a fastball, 97 miles an hour. He was just, previously had thrown a really nice fastball right here on the edge of the plate, and then had blown a fastball by Betts. Maybe he was thinking here that he was just going to do the same thing again, have a nice 1, 2, 3, but he misses this by a lot. So if I'm Betts, I really don't get much information from that pitch. It was just kind of a clear waste of a pitch. So on 1-2, that's okay. If I'm Clevenger now, I'm saying that pitch that I just threw was terrible, but how can I use that to my advantage here? So in the best case scenario, it raised the eye level of Mookie Betts, and this would kind of, after 3 straight fastballs, would give me even more reason to throw a slider here. So that's what I would be expecting. I hope this camera angle changes here. All right, a lot happened there. Let's break it down. So it was a slider, as predicted by me and probably everyone else in the stadium here. It was intended to be off the plate, as you can see by Perez here. This kind of wipeout slider. In reality, it was maybe a baseball below the zone, maybe a little bit higher, but Mookie Betts really just goes down and gets it. If we look at his posture, he starts straight up. Betts does over here. Before the pitch is kind of getting ready to step, and appears to land kind of closed, and really just goes down and gets this ball. This is, I think, a very interesting position. I'm trying to learn more about hitting. As you can tell, this is more of a pitching heavy breakdown, but I'm trying to learn more about how hitters are reacting to these pitches. And this looks like Betts just went down and got it. This looks like a good position that he's in. And he hits it out for a single. So far, Mookie Betts in this game, 2 for 2, both off of sliders that were fairly predictable. In this case, something weird happens afterwards, not really relevant, but we will keep that in mind for the third at bat, their third and final face-off of this game. Clevenger at 73 pitches, top 4. He's only thrown 3 2/3 to this point. There's a runner on first, so this isn't really a dire situation here. But again, Clevenger is just going to be trying to get an out here. If it's me, I'm probably going to be, again, throwing this fastball outside. He's had success with that. Betts hasn't really shown anything dangerous out there, so that's what I would be throwing. All right, so it looks like that's what Clevenger was trying to do. He probably wasn't trying to put the ball right in the middle of, right, belt high, but that's what he was trying to do, and Betts was a little bit late on it. Again, the barrel a little bit below. Tough to see here. The barrel a little bit below. Is that because of spin rate? Is that because of something else? Is Betts just not seeing the ball? I don't know. But for one reason or another, he fouls it off. So Clevenger is right where he wants Betts at 0-1. If I'm Clevenger here, again, it's pretty much either fastball somewhere in the zone or slider out here. I'm probably saving that slider out here for a little bit later in the at-bat, so I would think that there's a fastball coming here as well, probably outer half. So that's not the case. He goes slider. Clevenger has not really been executing the slider well, so it wouldn't surprise me if they don't really see this low and outside slider as a viable out pitch anymore, since Betts has hit it to the wall twice in this game. So maybe they're the Indians pitch callers are changing their strategy a little bit, using the slider to potentially set up the fastball. Here we see it again. Slider really not executed well. I'm going to go back one more time and look at Betts' reaction to this pitch. Yeah, he just spits on it. Doesn't really get much information other than the fact that a a slider was being thrown. So yes, let's move on to 1-1. If you know they just threw the slider out here, it was executed poorly. I would not be surprised if they went back to it and tried to actually execute it well and have it land in this kind of bottom corner here. So they do, and again, Clevenger does not execute this well. He does kind of get, if you look at Mookie Betts here, he does get a little half. I wouldn't call it a check swing, but Betts was ready to hit it. So not great for Clevenger. It's 2-1. He just, could not command this slider here. I would probably call a fastball here just because you don't want to go down 3-1 on Mookie Betts with the top of the order coming up after him with 2 outs. So I'd expect a fastball. He hasn't really thrown this high fastball in a while, so maybe he can try to get Betts chasing on a hitter's count. So, who knows? It could be any, there's plenty of different pitches it could be. That's the one that I would be. So, interestingly, they decide to triple up on the low and outside slider. The first one, Betts did not move at all. The second one, Betts gave a little half swing. And the third one, Betts looks like, I would even, potentially call this a check swing. He was ready to hit it. He's looking for it. He knows it's coming. He's seeing it very well. And again, it is executed poorly, 3-1. So here, when it is 3-1, if I'm Clevenger, I'm probably not going to throw a 4th slider in a row when the first 3 were pretty awful. So if I was Mookie Betts, I'd really be expecting a fastball here. Probably up or out. So this is interesting. I believe that this pitch is a changeup. As we said with the priors, Mike Clevenger rarely throws anything besides a fastball or a slider to a righty, but 1.5% of the time he's throwing a changeup. So let's just make sure that that's what that is. Yeah, that appears to be a changeup. Mookie Betts does not look ready for it. I think that was a very good move by the pitch callers here because Clevenger clearly was not throwing the slider very well, and Betts knew, he thought a fastball was coming, so a changeup is a good mix, and for Clevenger's sake, I'm glad that he was able to command it. So here we are. Let's go back to the beginning of this clip. It is 3-2, 2 outs against Mookie Betts. You can't command your slider. You haven't really used your high fastball because you can't really command that either. So what are you going to do to get him out? I would say put a fastball right here if you can, throw it as hard as you can, or just try to blow it by him more middle. That would be my call. Let's see what. All right, so somewhat of a comeback story here. Clevenger throws his 4th slider in 5 pitches. The first 3 were awful. This one is borderline good. Actually, no, I would say that's a very good slider. It starts off looking like a fastball. Betts is probably thinking, no way he throws me another slider. The first 3 have been awful. Betts on the first 3 got increasingly more likely to swing, and then on the 4th one, actually takes the plunge and swings. He knows he swung and he knows he's out, and Mike Clevenger wins for the first time of the game, and that is that. So thank you guys very much for watching. I really appreciated this opportunity and you for giving this a look. So thank you very much, you guys, and